Stay with this shot as we watch the president landing there in Air Force One. He's going to meet with officials from the West Coast about the ongoing firefight and then speak to the National Guardsmen and their families. All right, so right now let's go to ABC 10's Carlos Herrera, who is on the ground where the president is expected to speak this morning. He's been covering this story for us all morning since Morning Blend. Good morning to you, Carlos.
Yeah, good morning, Kirsten. There you have it. Air Force One just landed a few moments ago, touching ground here from the north side of the air park. It is now making a U-turn to the top of a J, and we do know that it will make its way to over where we are. Closer, it will park here, and then the president will be escorted to a hangar here with CAL FIRE officials. There, he's expected to be meeting with Governor Gavin Newsom, with CAL FIRE Chief Tom Porter. Now, Air Force One landing right on schedule, actually. He was scheduled to land just shortly before 11. Different this time around.
All right, so at least two groups have organized anti-Trump protests for the president's visit. But one group is there to welcome him to California. That's where ABC 10's Kevin John is to show us what is happening right now. Hey, Kevin.
Yeah, hey, Kirsten. As Carlos just said, Air Force One just landed about a couple of minutes ago, and the crowd here just absolutely went crazy. I'm going to step out of the way so you guys can take a look at what it's looking like out here. I would say there's several hundred Trump supporters out here. You'll see them waving Trump flags, Keep America Great. There's also a lot of music that was being played out here as well, and just a very festive atmosphere as everyone here was anxiously awaiting the president's arrival. I would say they got here earlier this morning around 7 or 8 o'clock when people started lining up. It actually started off on the intersection of Peacemaker just outside of McClellan Base, and I would say maybe about an hour ago, all of them started filing inside here. Well, you'll just see a lot of Trump supporters. Now, I do want to say this, Kirsten, for the most part, things have been peaceful here. We have not seen any altercations, any conflicts, any fights. It has been pretty peaceful thus far, but I also do want to point out we did see some Biden-Harris supporters here as well. We also saw members from Black Lives Matter here as well. So you do have other groups out here that are opposing President Trump, but for the most part, I would say the Trump supporters vastly overwhelm the people on the other side. So as you see, this guy has a sign right here that says Veterans for Trump. Make America Great Again hats. You'll see a lot of paraphernalia around here. Also, too, I just want to point out, you'll see people of all ages out here. We've seen teenagers, kids, older people, pretty much even babies, a 5-month-old or 6-month-old here. So just a very festive atmosphere once again out here, Kirsten. Some of these people told me they plan on being out here all afternoon. It doesn't look like the party is going to be stopping anytime soon. That's what they referred to it as. Also, another thing, you'll see a lot of Recall Gavin Newsom signs out here. As you can see, it's on the side of this trailer right here. So a lot of people that are out here not happy with the job that our governor is doing. But once again, you know, everything has been peaceful. For the most part out here, we haven't seen any altercations, any conflicts, just a lot of people that a lot of Trump supporters that are just cheering on and supporting the president. Also, I want to say, too, when President Trump, when the Air Force One, shall I say, just went by the tarmac there, people were on the fence, on top of their cars. Pretty much, it kind of resembled something of like a rock concert or something, just as far as the energy that was out here and everything that they felt. But for the most part, as you can see, I would say, Kirsten, right now there's maybe around 300 to 400 people here. That's just a rough estimate. Numbers have definitely grown over the last couple of hours since when I first got here around 9 o'clock, and I would say there were 75. But as you can see from the sights and sounds out here, just a lot of people supporting President Trump, obviously passionate and enthused and advocating for him. You'll see another sign right here that says Trump, Keep America Great. So with that being said, Kirsten, I'm being told to wrap. So here also.
All right, thank you for that live report, Kevin. You see now President Trump is about to descend Air Force One. He's in Sacramento, of course, with the whole crew of people with him on Air Force One in the area to talk about the wildfires that we're facing on the West Coast from Oregon to Washington, all the way down through California. Again, we have been waiting for this for hours. We were told that he would get here about 10:40, 10:50. So a little bit right on time. In the next hour, the president will be briefed on the fight here on the West Coast, not just California. Again, he's meeting with officials from Washington and Oregon, all the states fighting fires right now. Again, you see it there, Air Force One. We are waiting for President Trump to descend. All right, so let's get to ABC 10's Lena Howland. We will bring you the president live once we see him, but let's get an update for Lena right now. Hey, Lena.
Hey, Kirsten, we're out here in the burn area for the North Complex fire. We actually just pulled over on the side of the road here off of Highway 162, and I want to show you just what we are seeing here. A lot of burned out trees. Even the guardrail right holding up next to the highway has been totally burned out. It looks like it's something just out of a horror movie here. Just everything has been totally burned out as you head up to some of the houses that have been lost in this fire. I want to give you a little bit of information we got from Cal Fire this morning. They say that last night was actually a very successful one for firefighters here in the North Complex West Zone. They told us that progress was made in areas greatly impacted by the fire, including Berry Creek and Strawberry Valley. Now, the night operation chief said lots of dozer and hand lines were completed last night, and many areas were actually secured should weather permit. We are told that crews will be finishing up more lines in the West Zone today, hoping to cut off the fire spread. Now, we also learned from the sheriff that more people have passed away in this fire, bringing up the total death toll in the North Complex fire up to 14 people. And he also said that 7 people remain missing. Now, we just spoke with Cal Fire officials just a few minutes ago, and they say the winds are actually their biggest concern in the fire today, because we are told that they are expecting a change in winds actually in the southwest direction. That's the opposite direction that winds were moving in over the past couple of days in this fire. So they are expecting a little bit of fire growth today. That's what we know right now. Us crews on the ground, we have been told to watch out for large falling trees in the middle of the road, also large power lines that are falling down into the middle of the road. There are a lot of hazards out here, so that's why we are pulled over into sort of this safe open area right now. We are gonna continue to stay out here. We're actually gonna be following a group of some animal rescuers that are looking for stray or lost animals that got separated from their owners during that evacuation period. We're gonna bring you their stories of those rescues coming up on ABC 10 tonight at 5 and 6. But for now, I'm going to toss it back on over to you, Kirsten.
Yeah, thank you for that live look, Lena. You can see the devastation right behind you, charred ground and a lot of smoke. Be safe out there. Okay, so if you're just joining us, we are following breaking news right now as President Trump and Air Force One touch down at McClellan Park in Sacramento County. You can see we are waiting for the president to descend. A crew of people got off of Air Force One, and we know sometimes these things can take a little time. But if you're wondering why he's here, of course, we are dealing with one of the worst wildfire seasons on record. Soon, the president will meet with officials from across the West Coast about the ongoing firefight, and then he'll speak to National Guardsmen and their families. We're working to bring you all of that live as it's happening over the next hour or so. All right, so 11:01 right now. Let's check in with ABC 10's. Do we have Kurt Rivera? Okay. All right. We're just going to give it just a second to see if President Trump descends Air Force One. Again, we're talking about the worst wildfire in California history. A lot of people are talking about what the cause is. President Trump has said it's forest mismanagement. Governor Gavin Newsom says it is climate change. Hopefully those two, when they talk privately today, they can come to some kind of agreement on how to address the issue on the West Coast. All right, we have a crew on the scene for you. We have ABC 10's Carlos Herrera, who has been following the story for you all morning. Lena Howland, you just saw from her reporting on the wildfires on the ground from a devastated place. And we have ABC 10's Kevin John, who is live at McClellan Park with supporters who are here to welcome President Trump. Hello, Kevin.
Hey, Kirsten, that's right. And there are a lot of supporters out here that were here to welcome President Trump as Air Force One just landed right behind me about 5 minutes ago. I would say there's around 200 to 300 Trump supporters out here that were anxiously and eagerly anticipating his arrival and cheering him on. I have one of them here right now, sir. Your name?
Brian McGinnis.
So, Brian, what brings you out here today to support your candidate, and what do you want people to know?
Well, I want them to know that our president has been trying his darndest to get everything taken care of that he had on his agenda, and he sure has started to finish up what he promised. The only problem is now we have a lot of, well, I don't want to use the word Democrats, trying to take over and cause more havoc where he can't fulfill his obligations.
So, you know, coming to California, California is historically a blue state. What do you think President Trump needs to do on this visit in order to really get people in California to get behind him and his platform?
Hopefully just say some stuff that's coming from his heart and that we can get the things done. I mean, everybody here and throughout the state are worried about the virus. And now with all the fires that we're having in California, that's a big issue, and it's been a big issue. And so hopefully he can take care of some of the issues by talking about what he could do to help our state.
Yeah, well, obviously the state is experiencing some of the worst air quality we've ever had. You're referring to those fires. We were talking about them earlier in the newscast as well. Now, there's not a lot of people out here wearing masks. I think you're not wearing a mask. Oh, you have it handy?
Yeah, yeah, and I'm keeping my distance and social distancing and stuff. The air was pretty bad. Then I went down to L.A., same thing. So, I mean, the smoke is bad.
All right, it looks like we are having audio issues with Kevin. They're talking to one of the many supporters at McClellan Air Park in Sacramento, waiting for President Trump, who is here to get a briefing on the latest on the West Coast wildfires. We're talking fires from everywhere from California, Oregon, Washington State, and up and down the West Coast. These fires have been deadly. We've heard of at least 14 deaths here in California. Only 3 of those bodies have been identified so far, and there are other deaths to make up more deaths on the West Coast. About 30 deaths so far because of the destructive wildfires up and down the West Coast. And again, they're calling this the worst wildfire season in history. All right, so let's check in with ABC 10's Carlos Herrera, who is also live at McClellan Air Park, where we will be able to talk to Carlos, I'm sure. Let's go ahead and get a listen. Hey, Carlos.
Abbott Air Force One now parked. We're now waiting for President to start walking down those steps. He's expected by the Secret Service at Presidential Motor not too far away from here. That's where he's to meet and a state fire official, Gavin Newsom. That meeting with wildfires that are now burning along the West Coast, specifically those in California that, of course, as you mentioned, 3 million acres in our people have died. We do know that the aircraft did land from the north side this morning, right on schedule, around expecting to crash.
Okay, we were trying to get a live feed from Carlos Herrera, who is there at McClellan Park. Again, we are waiting for President Trump to descend from Air Force One. These things take time. In the meantime, let's check in with ABC 10's Kurt Rivera, who is also there for us, where the president just landed. We're still waiting for him to get off of Air Force One. Good morning to you, Kurt.
Good morning. I'm on one of the risers just a few feet behind Carlos. And just to give you some perspective on this visit, this is the second time President Trump has visited California during wildfire season. You might remember he visited Paradise and the campfire. That happened almost 2 years ago, back in November of 2018, with then Governor Brown and then Lieutenant Governor Newsom. Now, the governor and the president have a very interesting relationship. It's cordial. Governor Newsom has praised the president for sending the state coronavirus testing swabs. Back in April, you might recall that he called Trump responsive and thoughtful. Trump saying in return to Newsom that he was very nice and California had done a very good job. Now, the governor needs the president's help with federal dollars for wildlife relief in California. President Trump, of course, wants to show American voters he is empathetic and cares about those impacted by the wildfires, with the election, of course, just less than 2 months ago. Now, why all the wildfires at historic levels? Well, scientists have warned for years of global warming and climate change, and leading to extreme temperatures and more intense wildfires.
Okay, we're going to cut in right here. It looks like President Trump has just descended Air Force One to be greeted by hundreds of people there welcoming the president to California. There's a big group of pro-Trump supporters, but then we have to also mention that there are two other groups who are protesting the president's arrival. You see him there descending the stairs of Air Force One. All right, we have a team of reporters on the ground there at McClellan Air Park, where President Trump is going to be briefed about the West Coast wildfires from California to Oregon and Washington State. He's also going to speak with the National Guardsmen and their families today. And again, we're working to bring all of this to you live right here on ABC 10. There you see the president stopping to speak with reporters. He'll also meet privately with Governor Newsom later today as he tours the damage and gets a briefing on the situation here on the West Coast. Again, they are calling this one of the deadliest or most destructive, the biggest, wildest wildfire season here in the state of California. This is his second time being here in just the past couple of years. Again, you may remember he was here for Paradise, like Kurt Rivera just told you, and he is back again to check on the situation on the West Coast. All right, we are sticking on this so that you can get a glimpse of the president as he arrives here at McClellan Air Park in Sacramento, speaking to reporters before he speaks to the National Guardsmen and get a briefing on the wildfire situation in California, Oregon, and Washington State.
Okay with me too. So we're going to go in right now. Then we're going, as you know.
All right, we are trying to get you a live look at President Trump speaking. We're working on that. I do hear him right now. Let's listen in.
Probably everything, including polls. I don't give a lot of significance to polls, even though we've been getting very good polls. We just got a very good one from Rasmussen, as you probably saw. And we certainly got a very good one from within the Republican Party, 95 to 96%. So we're going to do our meeting now with the state officials, including the governor. And then I'll see you in a little while. And then ultimately, and we're also giving 7 medals to 7 great, really heroes, really, truly heroes. And I look forward to doing that. We'll be doing that. We're going to have a little bit of a press conference inside. Okay.
What would you like to see specifically done on the issue of forest management? And is it possible that it's also forest management and climate change? It's both things
well,
at the same time.
I think something's possible. I think a lot of things are possible. But with regard to the forests, when trees fall down after a short period of time, about 18 months, they become very dry. They become really like a matchstick. And they get up, you know, there's no more water pouring through. And they become very, very... they just explode. They can explode. Also, leaves. When you have years of leaves, dried leaves on the ground, it just sets it up. It's really a fuel for a fire. So they have to do something about it. They also have to do cuts. I mean, people don't like to do cuts, but they have to do cuts in between. So if you do have a fire and it gets away, you'll have a 50-yard cut in between, so it won't be able to catch to the other side. They don't do that. If you go to other countries, you go to Austria, you go to Finland, you go to many different countries, and they don't have fire. I was talking to a head of a major country, and he said, we're a forest nation. We consider ourselves a forest nation. This was in Europe. I said, that's a beautiful term. He said, we have trees that are far more explosive. He meant explosive in terms of fire, but we have trees that are far more explosive than they have in California, and we don't have any problem, because we manage our forests. So we have to do that in California too. So I'll go do this and we'll see you in a little while. Thank you.
Mr. President, you mentioned about forest management.
All right, you heard the president there, just landed here in Sacramento at the McClellan Air Park, again checking on the West Coast wildfires that have been called one of the most destructive in history. There are hundreds of supporters there here to welcome the president to California, and there are 2 other groups that organized a protest of his arrival. But again, from what I'm being told, there are hundreds of supporters there welcoming the president to California. Let's talk about why the president is in our area right now. We have an update on the wildfire, starting with the latest on the North Complex zone. We'll tell you a little bit about that. That's video of that fire that you can see. More than 74,000 acres have burned so far, and it is 18% contained. 14 people have been killed because of this fire alone. More than 400 buildings have been destroyed, and more than half of those were homes. And we're going to continue to hear the stories of families just starting to find out about their homes that were destroyed in the North Complex fire. We're hearing from one family who lost their home in Paradise 2 years ago, and then they just found out this fire destroyed their new home in Berry Creek 2. An unimaginable situation. ABC 10's Lena Howland is
devices. Daimler did not disclose all of their software, and when the EPA engineers tested Daimler's vehicles, they discovered the Daimler vehicles included devices that were designed to defeat emission controls. EPA's talented and dedicated staff at the National Vehicle and Fuel Emissions Laboratory in Ann Arbor were able to detect and expose these defeat devices through rigorous testing of Daimler's vehicles. EPA found that the vehicles contained hidden software. That software could detect whether a vehicle was driving under the test conditions, in which case the software made sure that all emission controls were operating
like this. So I view that as number one. That's something we can do something about quickly. When you get into climate change, well, is India going to change its ways? And is China going to change its ways? And Russia? Is Russia going to change its ways? You know, so you have a lot of countries that are going to have to change because they make up, we're just a small speck. They make up a big preponderance of the pollution. And so you have to get them to do it. And nobody ever talks about that. You like that, right? Look at him. You like. I like you.
I love you, sir. Mr. President. Owned by the federal government. What is the plan to do something?
Say it. Say it.
The plan with the government.
Well, we would help them with respect to forest management, and we'll, work along with them, and we already are. We've done large sections of land owned by the federal government, and forest management is not only the leaves that have been sitting there for many years that are dry as a bone, but they're also the trees that go over. Anything over 18 months, that is like a matchstick. It's absolutely like a matchstick. And the standing trees, as you know, they're taking in water, they're wet, and they're much harder to catch. So they have to do forest management. They also have to do cuts, 50-yard cuts, so that if you have a section that goes, it's not going to take a whole, 100,000 acres. So you do cuts, and you can do them in ways that look actually very good, but you have to be able to do them. So, we'll be talking about that. It's very important. The management is very important. That's why you always have them here. When you think of it, you see it in Europe, it doesn't happen because they manage, well, it doesn't happen much. I'll have to be exact with you people, you understand that. But it doesn't happen much because they manage their forests, and they manage them brilliantly, and they've been doing that for many years. Other places it doesn't happen where they manage their forests, and it should happen here. And they've done something, and I will tell you, federal government is now starting to do it in a very big way, but the state has to really do that. That includes the state of Washington, that includes Oregon.
The governor says that forest management is a big issue, but he says forest management is a big issue, Governor Newsom, but he says fundamentally this is a climate crisis.
Well, that's up to him. Look, he does agree with me on forest management. You have to understand, when I first started talking about it 3 years ago, nobody agreed with me. Now everybody agrees that forest management's a very important subject. And you can do it beautifully, but if you did manage your forest, and if you removed all of that really dry and just, it's like explosive is the only word. You drop a cigarette on it, you come back a half hour later and you have a forest fire. If you don't have that sitting there, nothing's going to burn, because the last thing to go are the bases of the trees, because they're soaking wet from the trees soaking up the water. So they have to be able to do that. If they do that, they're going to have a much different situation. But every year it's the same thing. And this one's a very big one. This is a number of big ones. You put them together and it's a big monster.
What do you say to critics who say it's too late to say something about California?
No, I said it immediately. And I spoke, and let me just tell you about your nasty question. I got a call from the governor immediately, and I called him immediately. In fact, he returned my call. And on that call, I declared it an emergency. I gave an emergency declaration. That was immediate. So don't tell me about not doing, because I gave immediate. That included FEMA coming here immediately while it was just starting. FEMA and everything else. So that's a nasty question.
How do you
What
feel
is your
about
relationship with Governor Newsom?
Say it?
What is your relationship with Governor Newsom?
I think it's very good. We have a good relationship. We're obviously from different sides of the spectrum, but we have a very good relationship. We've worked well, and as I said, as soon as this started, we spoke right at the beginning, and I gave an emergency declaration, and he will tell you that. He thanked me, because a lot of presidents wait for months and months and months. They wait till after it's all over, and then they consider it, and then oftentimes they don't do it. I did it right at the beginning, and I think he'll admit that.
Do you agree there is a climate change issue here in California at all? Is there a climate change issue in California?
You'll have to ask the governor that question. I don't want to step on his toes.
President, no question. Thank you for making America great again, sir.
Thank you very much.
Mr. President,
I like this guy.
I love you, sir.
I don't know who you are, but I like you.
I love you. Keep it handy to grab it quick.
up. Looks like they taped it off.
Oh, okay.
Let's see. Look around. Look around. Thank you.
Made it in.
What happened to all the chairs?
Is it? Oh my goodness, it's like a thing with this.
I'll be back.
Governor, we've been speaking a lot about the problem, and it's a big problem, and it'll get solved. I want to pay our love and respect, and we say God bless you to those that were killed in this horrible fire. It's a series of fires you're putting together. It's a big monster down there, big monster. But we are showing and give unwavering support for the people of California, and I have to say for the state of Washington and Oregon, who we're very much in touch with, also declaring your declarations. We have declarations for all three. Governor of California called me up, and we immediately signed the declaration. I think a lot of people would take a lot longer, but we wanted it fast. And I want to thank all of the FEMA people for doing such a great job. We really appreciate it. They've been fantastic. They've been fantastic. And thank you to Gavin Newsom, Acting Secretary of Homeland Security Chad Wolf, FEMA Administrator Pete Gaynor, and all of the people, state, local leaders. They join us today, and we're having a separate news conference a little bit later on some other subjects. And I just want to thank everybody. It's been pretty amazing. In August, I approved a major disaster declaration for California. I've approved, I think, Gavin, about 40 Stafford Act declarations, so very quickly, because we want to get this thing taken care of, including fire management assistance grants to help multiple states stop the fires. More than 28,000 firefighters and first responders are combating the fires in California, Oregon, and Washington. Over 230 soldiers are fighting the August complex fire, and that's the largest fire in California. Yep. That's the big one. That's the biggest. Yep. And we want to thank all of the brave fighters. We want to thank these incredible people, the first responders, service members who are racing to the extreme peril, really, of their lives and extreme danger. Soon after the event, I'll present the Distinguished Flying Cross to 7 military heroes who recently braved raging fire and suffocating smoke to save lives. So we have 7 people that were recommended very strongly by your representatives, and we're going to give them a very nice medal, very important medal, for a U.S. medal that's very powerful, very important. Yep. So I know you like that. Together we'll keep the people safe. I want to thank the governor for the job he's done. We've had great coordination, great relationship. I know we come from different sides of the planet, but we actually have a very good relationship. Good man. And Governor, would you like to say something, please?
No. Well, it's great to have you back here in the state, Mr. President. Thank you for being here, in particular with 2 of the Coast Guard aircrafts that we're now bringing into the California family that are being retrofitted, these C-130s. Just an example, another example of the partnership between the federal government and the state of California. That partnership, of course, extended with incredible collaborative spirit of FEMA. Pete has done an amazing job. He's known by first name as Pete out here in the state of California. Bob Fenton, his regional director. We're joined by Tom Porter, the chief of CAL FIRE, head of natural resources, Wade Crowfoot. Pleased to have the Fresno County mayor here, Mayor Mims, and of course, supervisor from up north in Siskiyou that was kind enough to come all the way down. We've got fires from Siskiyou County, right up there at the border of Oregon, all the way down to the Mexican border. About a month ago, literally to the day, we began to have a series of 14,000 lightning strikes over a 3-day period. 1,100 fires have sparked in the last month. 2.8 million acres just in the last 30 days have burned. Unprecedented in California history. 3.2 million over the course of this calendar year. There's over 16,500 firefighters currently out in the lines, and I'm very pleased and I'm very grateful, Mr. President, that you're recognizing some of the other heroes, those National Guardmen and women that did an extraordinary job saving the lives of hundreds and hundreds of people stranded with some of these most intense fires. You mentioned the August complex, 789,000 acres, the largest in California history. We have a series of forest fires, but also brush fires and grass fires that we're tackling. We've made great progress in the last few weeks, though tragically we've lost 24 lives so far to these battles. 4,200 plus structures have been lost and 44,000 people have evacuated. I want to thank you and acknowledge the work that you've done to be immediate in terms of your response to our FMAG request 14. We were just talking, Mark Gilladucci is the head of the Office of Emergency Service. This may be a record that the state's received in the FMAG support as well as the major disaster declaration, which you referenced on August 22nd, which was profoundly significant, not only to help us support our mutual aid system, but also individuals that are in desperate need of support. We can agree to disagree, and I appreciate your frame on the politics of this, but let me just acknowledge two things briefly, and I'll turn it back to you. There's no question when you look past this decade and looking past almost 1,000+ years that we have not done justice on our forest management. I don't think anyone disputes that. I want to acknowledge we have our U.S. Forest Representative here. The state of California, your administration just entered into a first-type commitment over the next 20 years to double our vegetation management and forest management. I want to thank you for supporting that effort, funding that effort. We acknowledge our role and responsibility to do more in that space, but one thing is fundamental. 57% of the land in this state is federal forest land. 3% is California. So we really do need that support. We need that emphasis of engagement, and we are fully committed to working with you to advance that cause. And final point, I'd be negligent, and this is not, and we've known each other too long, and as you suggest, the working relationship I value. We obviously feel very strongly that the hots are getting hotter, the dries are getting drier. When we're having heat domes, the likes of which we've never seen in our history, the hottest August ever in the history of the state, the ferocity of these fires, the drought, 5+ years, losing 163 million trees to that drought, something's happened to the plumbing of the world. And we come from a perspective, humbly, where we submit the science is in and observed evidence is self-evident, that climate change is real, and that is exacerbating this. And so I think there's an area of at least commonality on vegetation, forest management, but please respect, and I know you do, the difference of opinion out here as it relates to this fundamental issue on the issue of climate change.
Absolutely.
Appreciate that.
Chad, please.
Well, thank you, Mr. President, for coming to Sacramento today and, again, taking that decisive action that we heard the governor talk about and really pulling the full resources of the federal government here to California as well as to other areas out here in the West. Let me just reiterate the great partnership that we have between FEMA, the U.S. Forest Service, CAL FIRE, OES, the governor's office. It's really the partnership, it's really a model that we have out here in California that we think is just fantastic. It's getting a lot of support locally here very quickly. So I just wanted to reiterate that and say thank you to our partners for what you do every day. Let me just say they also do a great job on mutual aid. So they pull in a number of fire resources from outside of the state, as well as country, for that matter. We were talking earlier about some international partners that they have here. We're happy to support that as well. And then let me just say thanks, as you did, Mr. President, to the brave firefighters and all the first responders that are responding every day to the fires that we see here. Those are the heroes of the day, and we're just happy to be part of that process, happy to support them with the resources through your office, Mr. President, and just really, again, look forward to the partnership we have here and continuing to push that along.
Well, they're doing a great job, and they really have over the years. It's a tough battle, but they've never let us down. No. Incredible what they're able to do, and the risk and the danger. Pete Gaynor, please, FEMA.
Sir, you're going to hear this constantly about the partnership. I can't say enough about the federal, the state, counties, tribes working together out here in California from the governor on down. It is a true team effort. And I know, through the major disaster decks and the FMAGs have allowed the governor and his team to exercise all the resources that the federal government has to protect, to respond and protect life, and that's the #1 priority. I know we're going to be working on debris removal, and then lastly, protection of the watershed to prevent follow-on disasters come the wet season. So together, I couldn't be prouder to be part of this team in California.
That's great. Thank you, Pete. Great job. Let everybody know what we think. Incredible job. So Wade and Tom, please.
Yeah, well, from our perspective, there is amazing partnership on the ground, and there needs to be. As the governor said, we've had temperatures explode this summer. You may have learned that we broke a world record in the Death Valley, 130 degrees. But even in greater LA, 120+ degrees. And we're seeing this warming trend make our summers warmer, but also our winters warmer as well. So I think one area of mutual agreement and priority is vegetation management. But I think we want to work with you to really recognize the changing climate and what it means to our forests and actually work together with that science. That science is going to be key, because if we ignore that science and sort of put our head in the sand and think it's all about vegetation management, we're not going to succeed together protecting Californians.
Okay. It'll start getting cooler. You just watch.
I wish science agreed with you.
Hey, well, I don't think science knows, actually. Tom, please.
So, Mr. President, if you're okay, I'd like to approach the map. And
Yeah, I'd love that.
Okay.
Thank you.
And
Go ahead.
Governor, good?
That's great. Thanks, Chief.
So on my way, I'll just reiterate. But I wanted to approach the map because what this displays very simply is all of the green is federal lands, Forest Service, BIA, BLM, all of the agencies included, Fish and Wildlife Service. The yellow is all private land. And then that 3%, you can't really see, it's scattered out here, that's the state lands. But what we have showing here is the ownership and then the fires that we're currently fighting. All the way from down near the Mexican border, within 8 miles of the Mexican border, all the way into Oregon. So we've got 1,000 miles spread between these fires. We have about, in order to put line around these fires with all the partnership we're talking about, we have to cut line, scrape line in the ground from here to Chicago. So it's a lot of dirt we have to move. But
And why is that? Why are you doing that?
you have to put a line between the green and the black in order to put a fire out.
Really?
We do. So what we're seeing is in the south here, in around 2000, we had beetle kill that caused large fires, the Cedar Fire, the Old Fire,
Right.
the Grand Prix, huge fires in 2000. 2010s through the 15 time, massive beetle kill in this area and large fires throughout.
Well, those trees have died anyway,
They died
from the beetle kill.
From beetles, from drought.
So they were largely dead, or the area was largely dead in terms of the
So
trees?
they died from the beetle kill, and now they're being burned up by the fires. Now we're also seeing here's the.
Do you view that differently when the trees are dead and the whole area? Because I know the beetle kill has been terrible.
Yes.
So do you view that differently? And now you're going to be clearing it or doing whatever you're going to do?
163 million, so it's, boy, it's a
No, it's
hell of a
something.
job, right, to start clearing that out.
Yeah. So we focus
But those
around
trees
the
are dead, and therefore they're very flammable. They're explosive.
They are. And so then we have what I'll call the asbestos forest, the redwood region. It doesn't burn more than a few hundred acres on occasion. With this year we have 85,000 plus almost 60,000 plus these fires are getting into redwood as well. We're going to have over.
So why is because of the thickness, the power of the tree? Why aren't they burning?
They have bark that's about 2 feet thick.
And they're very wet.
They're very wet. They're very resilient to fire.
Are you losing some redwoods or almost
Some
none?
redwoods are dying, but most of them will be okay. It's everything else that's getting.
No kidding. That's something. I'd never heard that before. So with time they could go, but the fact is they don't go with the fires. That's a fantastic.
Yeah, and they're 2,000 years old in that area.
That is so incredible.
It's incredible to see.
Think of that, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the landscape.
So your giant redwoods are where? What area? The giant redwoods.
So we have coastal redwoods, and then we have giant sequoia, which is they're the biggest girth of a tree.
And they're in good shape.
They're getting burned, but they will also survive. Those ancient trees will survive. But this fire down here, the SQF complex is.
Will the bark regenerate on the outside eventually?
The bark will continue to accumulate on the outside, and then the tree will continue to survive.
Do you see a big difference?
Yes.
You see, will that change with time, where you don't see it, or will you always know there was a fire there?
We'll always know there was a fire.
You'll always know. On the redwoods.
They get scars.
Yeah.
Over time. That's how we can tell.
Well, that in itself is a shame when you think, right?
Oh, boy.
That in itself is a shame. So that's an incredible story. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Mark, would you like to say something?
Well, Mr. President, first of all, thanks for being here.
the term I use here is a term I use, one team, one fight, and it really does represent everything that you're seeing today. All the agencies that we're working with before, during, and then after these disasters occur. I couldn't be more pleased. Our partnership with FEMA has been fantastic. Right now, as you mentioned, you've provided a major disaster for 11 counties within the state, different categories, and many of the people who have lost things have already started to register with FEMA, and that's been really a beneficial support to us.
Right.
So we appreciate that. And the mitigation is really, really critical. Since 2017, we've done 94 projects, about $138 million worth of mitigation focused on fire prevention. It's a whole variety of different kinds of projects and programs within the wildland and what we call the WUI, the wildland urban interface, to try to buy down the amount of impacts that these fires are occurring. And so we really appreciate that. All these new fires and this new declaration provides additional mitigation funds, which we will turn back around and continue to support the mitigation.
How many
efforts.
individual fires do you have?
I think we have right now actively about 29 major fires.
So when you add them all up, this is about as big as it's ever been, right?
Yeah, 1,100 just since, think about that, 1,100 fire starts in the last 29 days, but 29 complexes.
So we all put them out, most of them are put out early.
Making tremendous progress. The three largest, they're still active. Two of them are substantially contained. Yeah. The August, we have still a lot of work to do.
And Governor, if I could, just for the president, this is a bar chart that shows the acreage burned over the years. Top bar is this year. And the real scary part, Mr. President, is we're only partway through the season.
Right.
The worst fire that you obviously visited, the Paradise Fire, happened in October. So we're still, staring down the barrel of worse fires potentially this year.
We were there together. Let me ask you in Paradise. So did they have, it was like a blowtorch, right? Because the winds are 85 miles an hour. Nobody's ever seen anything like that. So that was different. Has there ever been anything like that in terms of the power?
It could be argued you had a narrow escape. A more pliable female might better suit.
There will be no other female.
Walk back down that path.
Good. That's a lot of utilities that are burning up, though.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So our fire right now is over 200,000 acres, and it's really more than any single local government can take care of. And so we are asking for assistance. And we've already made some progress today by getting a hold of FEMA, and I made a request from Pete to have a representative right in our command post, and we're making that happen, so that's going to be very valuable for us. Not only has it impacted our woodland, but the families that have lived there for generations in that area. The Big Creek hydroelectric power generating system that served California for over 100 years is destroyed, as well as the people that live there in their homes that operate that system. One major concern in the future is erosion, slope stability, ash runoff, and possible mudslides as a result.
So what's going to take the place of that generator? What are you going to do?
We have to actually restart it. It's Southern California Edison.
So you'll be able to fix it and restart it?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, the process.
It's a big damage? Big?
Well, it was a hydroelectric plant that wasn't directly damaged, but there was damage leading up to the facility.
I see.
And so we'll mitigate all that now.
I love hydroelectric. I think it's great. You must like that. I love the hydroelectric. Go ahead, please.
So far we've had over 300 structures that have burned, but we could have had many more. And I need to commend the efforts that CAL FIRE gave to us, not only with pre-work by doing some tree mortality mitigation.
Right.
But during that fire, they were able to cut some breaks that allowed us, law enforcement, to evacuate over 20,000 people from these areas. And so they just did a great job, and I am glad to report that in Fresno County, we've had no loss of life.
Right.
I will say that in Fresno County, we understand that we need a strong partnership with our federal government, and we are ready, willing, and able to be your partner on this. We support.
And your state government.
And of
right?
course.
That's going good, right?
Of course. We're getting what we need.
I have no doubt. Good.
In fact,
we had to mention that.
Of the areas that we've mitigated, I think in Fresno County, we got 5 of those.
So you're working well with everybody?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Good. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you. Please.
Thank you, Mr. President, Thank you, Mr. President, for being here and listening to a very rural community and county in California. I'm at the far extreme end of the state up there they were pointing to. My county continues to repeat the things that you saw in Paradise when you were there on a smaller scale. The town of Happy Camp this year is under the Slater fire that took off, and in a 24-hour period, we lost 258 structures in a very small town. Half of my population is displaced at this point in time. We have 158 homes completely destroyed.
Will that population come back?
Sir, that's a tough question because these are very poor people anyway, and they're living through the downturn of the timber economy at this point, and there's very low employment in this area. We are completely surrounded by federal timber at this point that needs some active forest management that would both improve the economy of the area as well as even increase the water flow that is in shortage in California in some of these places. Personally, I'm coming to you as a forester, elected official, and a past land manager for the U.S. Forest Service and firefighter.
Right.
In this area, I've worked with UC Berkeley and UC Merced on some studies. Our forests in the northern region, which historically have been pretty asbestos-like, are carrying 4 times the density that they did in 1930. So we have both the increase in brush in the wildland interface as well as the lack of management producing these extreme densities. And climate changes, and I can't do much about that. As a forester actively managing that forest, I can manipulate fuels, and I can do that in a pretty short order. I applaud you for the work you've done. I applaud you for the Farm Bill authorities. Our county just completed a master stewardship agreement with the U.S. Forest Service, and we have about a 500,000 acre project that's ready to go across all boundaries in our state and the 4 national forests that within
Well,
our
Gavin's
boundaries.
working on that with me, and you make money too. You're cutting down trees, you're thinning it out, and you're selling those trees for a lot of money, and it's really pretty good in a lot of ways. And I guess one of the things are the cuts, the big, whether it's 50 yards or 100 yards, but the cuts to stop it from spreading. And that's always tough environmentally, but they can do it in a way that's pretty good. And I think now the environmentalists have come a long way after watching this. Yeah. The ones that really want to take care of a problem, they've come a long way. So they'll be thinning it out. Then you're working on a plan to thin it out.
That's what the plan is right now. I will say that we have excellent working relationships with CAL FIRE as well.
Good.
And we need to marry the state programs with the federal programs across boundaries and jurisdictional boundaries so that we're effective in moderating large fire behavior.
Good. And Mr. President, just to the supervisor's point, that's exactly what the stewardship partnership that we advance with your administrations will do in the next 20 years, is we're sharing maps, we're sharing resources, we're prioritizing, we're doubling the number of acres federally managed, state managed, and I will say just humbly, we've got to double it still, meaning the partnership was significant. It was first in California's history with the U.S. government, but we're going to need to do a lot more
Well,
to the
I'm all
extent we
for
can
it.
provide.
That's
more
something
support.
I feel
Big
so
deal.
strongly about. You can knock this down to nothing. You go to Europe and different places in Europe, countries where they're forest countries, and They're very, very strong on management, and they don't have a problem. They really don't have, with, as they say, more explosive trees than we have in California. So thank you very much for your comments. But we're working on that very hard together, and I think we're totally in sync. I really think we're totally in sync.
Governor?
We're going to see you in a few minutes for the award ceremony. So thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Governor, if I could, just briefly.
We're in Sacramento, which now does the live on the live is that.
Can you confirm that they disconnected that pole? I had those a second ago that went away.
We have one substation.
leave them all down the front. Yeah, I did hear it. It didn't come straight away. They threw that one. There's not part about that.
Hey, can you give me an audio? They give me some tone or something?
I can't right now. We can't hear the podium right now? I can. If you can hear the podium, that'd be great. Okay, I hear it. Thank you. You did? It was briefly.
But you sent it through here, right? I should have got something. I didn't get anything.
Which White House did you have anything? Oh, yeah. Sorry, I just turned it down. That's why. So now it's up. I have it. Nothing.
Well, you have to, it's not a sound guy. It's not vocal. You're not going to hear it. I'm hearing it is present. I do hear that part.
Yeah, we don't have anything.
Oh, it's
Right, but I'm sending you mic.
It's mic level.
Oh, that's mic level. Not explicit.
Try mic level.
Yeah. Thank you.
Does that work?
Is it tone or what are you saying?
That's just the podium that's on.
If he sends tone, it's going to come over the PA, so you can't send tone.
Should be hearing at least almost. Thank you. Oh.
want to be able to get on this side so I can get him walking this way.
What's that?
If I want to be able to have him this side just because I need to get him walking this way. So I'll be like going right here, just in the beginning.
You do you.
Yeah.
aircraft we're looking at. Look at that beautiful, very expensive plane for good reason. Today it's my profound honor to award 7 extraordinary soldiers with the Distinguished Flying Cross for their remarkable courage to rescue their fellow citizens. I want to very much thank Major General Matthew Beavers for being with us today. Thank you, General. Thank you very much. Thank you, General, very much. It's a great honor to see you. I want to welcome, and please sit down. Families, please sit down. You're all very proud of these gentlemen, I think, right? I think. Is anybody not proud of their husband? Is anybody not proud? No? Good. Then we'll proceed. Welcome to Chief Warrant Officers Joseph Rosamond, Kip Godding, Irvin Hernandez, Brady Labine, Ji Jung, and Sergeants George Escobar and Cameron Powell. Thank you very much, and I will say that it's such an honor to be in your presence. You'll hear a story shortly that was very inspiring to me and to everybody else, and that's why these are very important medals, and it's great to be with you. Joining us are also warriors, but warriors of a different type. They're called Great Congressmen, and they're from your area. Doug Lamalfa. Thank you, Doug, very much. Appreciate it. Tom McClintock. Thanks, Tom. Doing a great job. And Greg Walden. We'll miss you, Greg. I can't believe you're not going to be there. He's retiring. Undefeated. Nobody would defeat him. And but it's a great honor. And it's really been fantastic working with Greg. We worked on something in particular, Right to Try, right, Greg? And we got it done. After 44 years, we got it done. So thank you very much. Just over 1 week ago, these brave pilots and crew members of the California Army National Guard embarked on a harrowing mission. As the sun set on September 5th, they boarded 2 helicopters that are behind me. Then they flew into blazing flames, raging wind, and it was raging, and blinding smoke to rescue families who were trapped by the massive creek fire at the Mammoth Pool campground. While they were on their way to the campground, the crew received word from state and local officials and headquarters that it was far too dangerous to continue the mission, turn back. But they decided to continue anyway, knowing they might not return. They knew that people were in danger, great danger. As night set in, they could see almost nothing through the miles of dense smoke. Using their night goggles and their expert navigation skill, they reached the camp. They found the stranded families, many of whom were badly burned and injured, and they loaded them, as many as they could, onto the 2 helicopters. Then they made the perilous flight back to the base. As soon as they unloaded the passengers, they again risked their lives and flew back into the blazing fire to rescue more victims. Their superiors said, "You cannot do this, you cannot do it again." They did it. The smoke had become even more overpowering, yet they returned a 3rd time. After 10 grueling hours, they completed their mission, having saved the lives of an astounding 242 people. We are proud of that. That's an incredible story. And I spoke to some people that really didn't want you to do it. They didn't want you to go back on those flights. To each of you, your unyielding and undying determination lifts our nation. You're what makes our nation great, and we thank you very much. Thank you very much. Incredible job. Over the last week, these devoted soldiers have continued to rescue more stranded individuals from danger. In fact, less than 48 hours after their rescue at Mammoth Pool, they flew to another treacherous mission. On the first 2 attempts, they were forced to turn around and they were advised to abort the mission. You must abort the mission. But they chose to try a 3rd time at great risk to their own lives. Through tremendous skill and incredible valor, they saved 50 people from absolute imminent danger. Our nation is strong because of remarkable individuals like these service members. In the midst of our greatest trials and biggest challenges, America prevails because of the brave and selfless patriots who risk everything so that they may save lives and people in many cases that they don't know. They have no idea who they are. It's like law enforcement. They save the lives of people that, for the most part, they have no idea who they are. But they're so determined to do it. Today, our country honors their courage, and we're inspired by their example, and we thank God for the blessing and all of our blessings that you're safe. Our nation has really benefited by your bravery. And on behalf of our great nation, I thank you very much. As your president, I thank you very much. Great job. And now I'd like to ask the military aide to come forward and read the citation, please.
Attention to orders. The President of the United States hereby awards the distinguished